On May 17, 2023, at approximately 2:30 a.m., police responded to a disturbance call on Beechwood Drive in North Lanarkshire. Upon arrival, they were confronted with a scene of extreme violence and brutality. Ross Al-Ghalani, a notorious enforcer linked to a major organized crime syndicate, and two accomplices had just carried out a savage attack on James Sheridan, a former gang member with a troubled past. Sheridan, who had once been involved with the criminal underworld, found himself at the mercy of the gang after he had previously been imprisoned for possession of cannabis and £14,000, which he had been caught with during a police raid. Sheridan's attempts to leave his criminal past behind while serving his sentence were thwarted when the gang held him responsible for a significant loss of drugs and cash. This retribution led to his brutal assault. Al-Ghalani, known for his ruthless enforcement of gang orders, was a trained mechanic who had built a reputation for extreme violence despite having a previously limited criminal record. His rise within the criminal hierarchy demonstrated how seemingly ordinary individuals could transform into formidable enforcers through involvement with organized crime. On May 16th, Sheridan, having been released early from HMP Low Moss near Glasgow, was followed to a property in Coatbridge. That evening, Al-Ghalani and his gang broke into the house and found Sheridan and his girlfriend, Samantha Cook, in a bedroom. They viciously attacked the couple with machetes and swords before fleeing the scene. Cook managed to call 999, and Sheridan was rushed to the hospital with severe injuries, including a head wound and multiple lacerations. His right leg was amputated above the knee, and he also lost 2 fingers. Cook also required significant surgery, ultimately losing 2 fingers from her right hand. Despite the severity of his injuries, Sheridan appeared unfazed in a video that surfaced online, where he seemed to downplay the loss of his leg. Sheridan and Cook later separated. Meanwhile, Al-Ghalani's next target was Scott McRan, who owed the crime group £19,000. On June 14th, Al-Ghalani abducted McRan and took him to a house in Wishaw. There, McRan was stripped to his underwear, bound, and subjected to brutal attacks with a baseball bat and a machete over the next 2 days. McRan was struck more than 100 times and had his hand burned on a cooker as part of the gang's violent retribution. Following a period of intense retribution orchestrated by Ross Al-Ghalani, Scott McRan was coerced into involving his relatives to pay off a substantial £19,000 debt. Despite these efforts to settle the score, Al-Ghalani's aggression did not wane. About a week later, Al-Ghalani issued another summons to McRan, instructing him to meet at a specified location in Wishaw. Upon arrival, McRan was forced to strip naked, and the scene that unfolded next was marked by extreme brutality. Al-Ghalani, who had already earned a reputation for viciousness, shot McRan approximately 20 times with an air rifle. The assault did not stop there. Al-Ghalani then proceeded to batter McRan with a baseball bat, demonstrating a level of cruelty that shocked onlookers. In a particularly disturbing act of sadism, Al-Ghalani involved a toddler from the household in the violence. He handed the air pistol to the young child, who was coerced into demanding that McRan raise his hands before shooting him again. This gruesome spectacle was both a demonstration of Al-Ghalani's ruthlessness and a further psychological torment for McRan. McRan's ordeal did not end with this attack. After managing to escape, he was forced into negotiating with the crime syndicate to devise a plan to recover their money. The court was informed that McRan required multiple surgeries following these brutal attacks. The injuries necessitated extensive medical intervention, including treatment for severe damage to his hand and the extraction of pellets from his body, left from the repeated air rifle shots. Remarkably, McRan was one of 2 individuals initially charged in connection with the attack on James Sheridan, alongside Al-Ghalani. Arrested along with Tony Redpath on July 7th, McRan faced serious charges of attempted murder. However, the charges against him have been mysteriously dropped, and the reasons behind this legal decision remain unexplained. The current status of the case involving McRan and Redpath is not publicly known. In his final act of violence as an enforcer, Al-Ghalani's actions reached a new level of brutality on July 4, 2023. He targeted a residence in Helensburgh, where a couple was living. According to Police Scotland, Al-Ghalani entered the property in Helensburgh's Hood Court via an unlocked door around 1 a.m. He confronted a 19-year-old woman in the kitchen, wielding what appeared to be a police baton and wearing an orange high-visibility jacket with a reflective stripe. His attack was swift and violent as he struck the woman twice, despite her efforts to defend herself. The woman's dog played a crucial role in her defense. The dog began attacking Al-Ghalani's leg, which ultimately led him to flee the scene. The assault resulted in severe tendon damage to the woman's left hand, leaving her with long-term physical and emotional scars. The exact motive behind this final attack remains unclear, adding another layer of complexity to Al-Ghalani's violent spree. During the court proceedings, it was revealed that Al-Ghalani was a trained mechanic with a previously unremarkable criminal record. His sudden descent into severe violence over a span of approximately 7 weeks was both alarming and perplexing. His lawyer, Brian McCann KC, described the period of offenses as mayhem and noted that Al-Ghalani himself was distressed by the footage of the attacks, likening it to a horror film. The impact of these violent acts on Al-Ghalani's psyche was evident as he struggled with the reality of his actions. Al-Ghalani's personal life was also affected profoundly by his criminal actions. With a family and children, the emotional toll of his imprisonment and the knowledge that he would miss out on their upbringing was significant. The contrast between his seemingly ordinary life and his extreme criminal behavior remains a troubling aspect of the case. Judge Lady Stacy addressed the severity of Al-Ghalani's crimes during sentencing. She noted that, had it not been for his guilty pleas, Al-Ghalani would have faced an 18-year prison term. She condemned his actions as despicable, cruel, cowardly, and sadistic, reflecting the court's disapproval of the nature of the offenses. Additionally, Al-Ghalani will be subject to supervised release for 3 years following his eventual release from prison. This harrowing sequence of events highlights the disturbing reality of organized crime and its devastating effects on individuals caught in its web. From the brutal assault on James Sheridan, which resulted in severe injuries and an amputation, to the extreme violence inflicted upon Scott McRan, the actions of Ross Al-Ghalani and his associates paint a grim picture of criminal retribution. From the initial attack on Sheridan, marked by machetes and swords, to the grotesque scenes of violence inflicted upon McRan, where he was not only beaten and shot but also subjected to further humiliation, the severity of Al-Ghalani's brutality is both shocking and indicative of the gang's fierce enforcement tactics. The involvement of a toddler in the violence, a deeply unsettling act, highlights the extremes of moral depravity that can accompany such criminal behavior. The court proceedings and sentencing offer a glimpse into the complexities of Al-Ghalani's life. A trained mechanic whose descent into organized crime and violence raises questions about the transformation from a seemingly ordinary individual to a feared enforcer. The dissonance between his everyday life and his extreme criminal actions paints a troubling picture of how personal and systemic factors can drive individuals to commit heinous acts. This case serves as a stark reminder of the destructive power of organized crime and the severe consequences it can have on individuals' lives. It also raises questions about the circumstances that can lead a seemingly ordinary person to commit such heinous acts. As we continue to cover similar cases and provide updates, it is crucial to remain vigilant about the impact of crime on society and the importance of justice for its victims. In reflecting on these events, we are reminded of the importance of justice and the ongoing need to support those affected by crime. The saga of Ross Al-Ghalani is a sobering reminder of the need for continued efforts to combat organized crime and protect vulnerable individuals from its devastating consequences.